Today, we're diving into what most data engineers and architects ignore, but what becomes the most crucial skill in your career: deep engineering fundamentals and a strategic approach to AI. It's not enough to just learn the latest cloud tool. If you care about landing a better job or becoming a top 1% data or AI engineer, this is for you. The foundation of modern data engineering is shifting from manual execution to critical oversight. The unglamorous, repeatable work of pipeline maintenance and simple migrations is definitely being automated by AI and agentic systems. This means your primary value is no longer in doing the work a tool can automate, but in validating and optimizing the tool's output and giving it the right context. Imagine working with AI on a data pipeline. You might spend weeks debugging why it makes bad predictions and discover that the underlying logic violates a core principle of distributed computing. Your deep expertise in data structures, architecture, and performance is what prevents that from happening in the first place. The most valuable data engineer is the one who understands why the code works and why it doesn't. They are the people who can look at a solution and confidently know how to make it 10x faster or more robust. The change requires a focus on three critical, high-leverage areas: system reliability and agents. The expectation for data reliability is non-negotiable. Traditional on-call rotation often forces engineers to wake up in the middle of the night just to perform an initial basic investigation. New AI tooling and agents can be integrated into the observability workflow and perform this initial triage, connecting the dots and gathering the rich context so that human engineers are only woken up for complex, domain-specific problems. Abstraction over execution. Engineers should stop writing code for generic data tasks. We must find patterns, abstract the non-domain specific parts of pipelines, and delegate this generic work to agents. This frees up human effort to focus on unique business logic and true innovation. The end of the endless migration. The single biggest drain on engineering time and the major cause of team burnout is the endless cycle of migrations. These repeatable efforts should be seen as a failure of automation. The industry should strive for a future where vendor services and autonomous agents handle these shifts out of the box. This new approach requires an evolution in how we hire. Since anyone can type a question into an AI app and get a functional code block, checking for basic syntax or problem solving is outdated. Hiring managers need to stop asking questions that AI can solve immediately and instead seek signals beyond simple execution. Do they understand the why? Can they explain the trade-offs of a particular design choice? Can they scale? Can they optimize a functional solution from linear complexity to logarithmic efficiency? Do they have domain-level curiosity? Will they push the boundaries of the solution or simply consume the first answer? There are three key points: the need for deep expertise, the critical role of reliability, and the evolution of the hiring model. When I traveled to Australia this summer to give a keynote at DataEngBytes, I met Isha Gupta, an experienced data engineer at Block, the financial company behind Cash App and Square. I interviewed her to get valuable insights and share them with you. Her work with Block's internal tools and her focus on eliminating the unglamorous parts of the job confirmed that the future of data engineering is a race not against AI, but to apply the right fundamentals and curiosity to build systems that adapt, heal, and scale. Watch the interview and let me know what you think. How did you get into data engineering?
My journey is a bit, unconventional because I'm coming from pure academics. Like I studied physics. Mostly, I didn't study any engineering or anything, but I always felt that in physics also, like when I used to do experiments, even as part of my uni, I always felt that everything we did was collecting data because we were always looking for patterns. And that's what sort of defined our sort of validated our hypothesis, or even to sort of even validate in terms of any sort of analysis. When I started getting into actual software, I realized quite early, I suppose, that We are collecting all this data. We are digitizing the world, basically. And we are sort of encouraging everybody to go on web or mobile or everything. And where is all this data going? Like, what will we do all this data? This is all information almost. Like, this will become information, right? So I started getting into reading about all this. I started learning about just on my own, like as like side projects apart from my day-to-day work. I think my day-to-day work, I pretty much did not like that much eventually because I was literally writing software. But I was like, where is this data going? I want to understand what we can do with this. And I started learning about, I remember learning through Andrew and G's course through Coursera very early on. Like I think I'm talking about 2016 or something. That's when I started looking into all this stuff and I got really excited, but I didn't know where to go in terms of who are the people working on this.
That's really exciting. Yeah, like you said, it's less conventional than usual. Most people start from like engineering or this is great. If you were to like restart your career, what would be your advice to yourself?
Yeah, so I definitely think that foundations are very important because a lot of times we know we are using these tools and all the things we have now. Like it is pretty exciting what is happening in terms of tooling availability. But I think I still feel and I still, if I meet people who are using these tools, I always encourage them to go for fundamentals and build those foundations to be able to, like you just mentioned in your talk, like deep expertise. Like there will be a lot of people who would be using all these tools, but there will be very few people who understand why one tool is better than the other. Right. So I feel like I encourage everybody to be curious. Just don't be on the consuming side. Be curious about why something is getting popular. Why is it good? And and probably if you go in that depth, you will be able to answer some questions, which is not very unique. Because what I'm realizing also, which I think I totally agree when you also said in your talk that evaluation of all, like how do you trust the outcome? And to trust the outcome, you have to understand how it works. And only then you can understand why it's not working. So I guess what I'm mostly saying is that fundamentals are really important. And I still feel coming from a very academic background, I think focus on fundamentals would really take somebody long way, even with all the tooling and all the popularity of AI tooling around.
Yeah, that's a brilliant perspective. Um, if you look at your job now with AI in the picture and your job, let's say 3 years ago, how did it change with the AI tools here? Are you starting to apply them more in your work? Or, did it affect the dynamic of how you uh, proceed with your data engineering work?
So I would say that I have only started using these tooling since like a year, and I think it has accelerated my work pretty significantly. I feel because earlier I used to have like when I'm doing something, I'm trying to solve a problem, and I'm having so many questions, and I just didn't have the time to analyze the information which I had access to do it that fast. Like I would get distracted. But now with all these tooling around me, I think I'm able to resolve all these questions along the way because I can use agents. I can use I use Cursor and Goose. So I'm from Block, and Block has Goose as their agent, which they're working on internally. So I know the team as well, and I use that as much as possible to see and compare different tools in terms of what they are doing and how. And overall, it just helps me in my work in terms of getting the outcome. And just cute questions around the data I'm seeing, some patterns. Like I'm seeing a pattern I'm not able to understand myself and I don't have the time to analyze it. I just use these agents and put them to work to sort of give me those answers quickly. And just even if they're wrong, I still get a sense of, okay, probably I think I've got my answer, and it helps me validate my hypothesis pretty quickly. So I would say it has really accelerated my work, yes.
In your day-to-day work, what are the types of problems that you are solving as a data engineer?
Right. So there are numerous problems. I always have to sort of pick and choose in terms of what to prioritize first. Like which is the biggest problem which will give me the fastest sort of win. So at the moment, like there is a lot of migrations happening, which we are doing in terms of, I guess migrations is a part of job. They will never go away. I guess the thing which always comes to my mind is like, how can we make these faster? Because I don't think they're going away. Like this is always going to be in business. Like we are business, we are using different cloud providers. It will always remain. How do you make it fast? I think that will be the question to answer. And the second thing which I always am looking into is because I work on blog and I've worked in the central data team at the moment. And we see a lot of traffic, and which means we have to make our systems very, very reliable. How do you make that reliability, or how do you engage agents in that reliability workflow? Because I don't mind waking up, for example, in the middle of the night, but I don't want to be woken up just to find out what happened. I feel like the agent can do that for me, that it can find some basic information which is already out there. I'm literally just connecting the dots in the initial 1 hour of my investigation. So I feel like agent can help me with that. So these are the two areas primarily which I am trying to focus on, apart from all the other things which I have on my plate.
I'm curious if you've noticed any shift with the data team or data engineering team being more connected with the domain experts, because like the domain of your company is connected to money and transaction.
Sure.
Did you see more collaboration with like AI being introduced in some areas, or is it happening slow?
Definitely, like I said, we have different brands under one umbrella now. We are trying to make sure that we can learn from consumer behavior of each of the brands. And because they are like, some of them are very consumer brands, like people interact with Tidal, listen to music, they use Square to purchase stuff, and they use Cash App to pay the money to each other. So to understand the consumer behavior across brands, and while still being um, giving the assurance, the safety to the consumer that their information is not getting misused, is, I feel like, a very critical area in terms of how do we draw boundaries, right? And we can allow all these AI tooling, all those LLMs access to that data, but how do you draw boundaries that that data doesn't get misused or is not being used for unintended purposes? Right. So that is a very critical area where we pay attention a lot in terms of how do we draw boundaries, how do we make sure that it's all governed and compliant, because we have to work under different jurisdictions and regulatory authorities, and we have to make sure that we are doing a due diligence towards the custody.
Yeah, it's a super important area that many miss it first, but then realize that they have to go back and put all these guardrails in place. Do you have the time at work to learn about all the new things that are coming out?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. I feel I'm fortunate in Block. We get that time, and at least in Melbourne, in Australia, we my previous first manager who set up I joined under him, and he was particularly very I guess very clear in terms of the spend 20% of your time learning every week. So every Mondays we used to spend time learning, and honestly, I felt that it was not that Monday which helped. I think it gave us that space that we could prioritize. Like if there is something pressing, we could still continue working on Monday. But because we knew that we had that space, so we always used to find time to learn. And it got us into that mindset that our employer is also sort of encouraging and wants us to learn new stuff. And I think it has only helped the company if they understand, if they look at it that way. Yes.
Do you know of any use cases or problems in data engineering that they're still unsolved, but you would really like for them to be solved or to have solutions? I think these are often the like unglamorous things.
Oh,
that
yeah, absolutely. Oh my God, there is a whole a lot of things that I would say that absolutely unglamorous. A lot of times data engineering is pretty much like boring pipeline stuff. And I always feel like, why is it that we are still sort of why is it we are solving or reinventing the wheel? I feel sometimes, why is it that there are no patterns, and these agents, we can definitely use agents to sort of abstract that generic work we do just delegate it to the agents and keep the domain stuff out of it and reuse them. That's something which I would really like to see at some point. But like I said, this is all happening at the moment as we speak. It's like literally racing against time, and I think it will happen eventually.
If you had a magic wand for an AI tool that does something, what would you wish for?
One thing which definitely I would wish for is that no team spends time on migrations. Okay, that's great. Yeah, that it can just happen. And especially, I feel like some of the things which we do or we have to do as engineering, I just feel that we are using so good vendors, and they should just have the services out of the box. Like, we shouldn't be doing all that stuff. Why are we spending energy on that and effort on that? So definitely one of the things, and a lot of things I feel a cause of burnout in teams is like migrations, endless stuck in migrations, and it seems very, very repeatable and should be reusable.
Yeah, it's the type of work that takes away so much of your energy and time, but we know all the steps. We just have to go through them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like a job to be done, but unglamorous pretty much, and very important to keep the lights on. But it's not automated yet.
Like, did the interview process change for data engineers, or what do you think would be the right evolution of the interview process now that anyone can type in a question, get an immediate answer? Should we still be checking for the same things?
No, that's a very good question. We have been thinking about it. Like, we have these discussions internally also. Like, even for universities, they take essays. They used to take essays for admissions. Similarly, like, we used to do interviews, and we do interviews, and we still, there's a problem statement, can you solve it? I always wonder that we won't do that anymore in a normal workflow. Why would we ask the same question in the interview? I guess the skill or the important aspect still remains, that how do you understand what the code, like, what is it doing and why is it doing the way it is doing? Like, is there a better way to do it? Why is it performing X? Can it be 10X? That kind of things. Yeah. So I feel like I think we'll have to up the game on that front, like in terms of making sure that we are still looking for the right signals. And I think even the interview process has to keep up, with the tooling. Like, we can't use the same sort of interview process, I believe. Yes, to be fair to both sides of the table, basically. Like, it's not fair for the person who's interviewing that we are telling them that you can't use any of the tools, because that's not true. You will be using those tools in your day-to-day job. So we have to ask something beyond. You have to get signals beyond that.
Thank you for so many good insights.
I really recommend your talk, because I talk to people all the time, and I feel like everybody's worried. I think it will just increase. If you're curious, you will learn a whole lot more, way faster, right? So I just hope people get that spectrum.
Your reality has changed. You're stuck in your career. You're either using AI or being used. Do you still believe success is guaranteed? You feel it's time to wake up. Old strategies don't work anymore. Welcome to the real world. It will never be the same again. You need to fight for your future. Learn to spot truth from lies. I will help you. Together, we will win.